Hi, everyone. My name is Kara George. I'm one of the family education specialists here at Starbridge, and I'm really excited to be able to give you this training tonight called Circles of Support. When I first came to Starbridge and started better understanding this training, I was like, I think things are slowly starting to kind of click in place, and I'm hoping that that is what happens for you as a result of our time together looking at this training together today. And so, to start diving into circles of support, one of the most important parts to realize is it really starts with you and looking at kind of where you fall into the picture. Then it's thinking about those that love us and kind of surround us in that next circle, followed by those that are a little bit kind of a further removed, but still kind of our family, those extended relatives and others, and then the community, and then those others that are out there in the world that touch our lives in different ways. And so circles of supports is a great way for us to kind of almost map the individuals and the roles and responsibilities that they have throughout our life. And so this training will hopefully kind of walk you through that and give you an opportunity not only to reflect on where things are for you, but also where are there some opportunities. And so let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of meaningful relationships. We're going to talk about using circles as a tool to kind of map and reflect upon our relationships. And we're going to look at kind of strategies for defining our roles and boundaries. And so, where this work really kind of all began is this opportunity for families to kind of think about who are our relationships and how are they kind of intersecting each other. And so I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing with our facilitators tonight, how familiar are you with circles of support? Are you one, I've used circles before? Two, you're like, I think I know a little bit about this stuff. Three, are you like, this is new to me? Or are you four? You're like, it doesn't sound very familiar. Not sure. Like I'm connecting with what Kara's talking about. Go ahead, drop it in the chat. One, two, three, or four. And that just lets us know kind of how you're doing with being aware of this topic. And because I intentionally start there, because one of the things that we sometimes are frequently asked is who's helping with this for our child, right? Or who's helping with that, or what role do they have? And we don't always kind of take some time to intentionally think of kind of where there's opportunities of overlap, and also where sometimes those boundaries shift and change over time. And so this work really began a short period ago where someone took the time to kind of map out and say, hey, how do we help communities to understand the intersectionality of those who provide services and supports with the families in the community and the families that they are within? And so I like to kind of put this in the context for us as we kind of think about it of that starter circle of are we talking about? So for example, for me, I like to think about it for each of my children. So this yellow circle would represent my kiddos. And this next circle, the pink circle, is really our immediate family, meaning the people who live in my house, the people who are here with me. These are kind of the loved ones, those that you see kind of on a day-to-day basis. Next up in that outer circle, I would call those the friends, the people you go to parties with, the people you invite for birthdays, the people you like to have kind of those different kind of more long-term relationships with. Then comes our next bigger circles. And this is where it's kind of those acquaintances, people we might touch base with, kind of sporadically. It's not really an ongoing thing. And then we also have that really kind of far out removed circle of the professionals. Maybe I would fall into that for some of the families I serve of I'm kind of a distant away, but I am there and connected to the family. And so when I start to do circles, one of the things that I like to do as I'm reflecting on this is I take an opportunity to start with my first circle. Me, I'm right there. And I'm like, who do I have around me that can kind of help support me on a good day and like cheer for me and say, wow, Carrie, you did a great job helping that family. And so I would put my husband, Jared, there, my son, Michael, and my daughter, Ellie. They're my loved ones that kind of wrap around me in my full day. I'd even in the circle include my fur baby, Mr. Finley, my puppy dog. Then my outer circle is where I would start to include some of my extended family members. And so these extended family members are my brothers and sister-in-law, people who I say are important because they're pretty tight with us. They pretty much know kind of the good things, the bad things, all the things in between, and they help to kind of keep everything kind of running flow and carrying status quo. Then I have this outer couple circles. And so that's where we start bringing in the acquaintances. I would say in my acquaintances circle, that could include some of the people I meet as I'm doing trainings. Because sometimes I'm like, ooh, we have a common and I want to get to know them a little bit better. I might say acquaintances are my next door neighbors. My acquaintances might be others that are in the office at Starbridge. So I encourage you to think about who those acquaintances are. And then that outer circle, the one that like you're still somehow connected, but it takes a little bit of grip to get to you. Those are the professionals. These are my doctors. These are any outside supports I might be accessing. These are kind of my go-to people when things are tough. And so for me, I think a lot of I put like system stuff in the circle. The schools, ooh, we could write a whole book about that, right? Circles for them. Then I put in also some circles like some of the office for the aging because I'm caring for some aging loved ones. I put in those outside professional circles because I need them in my world, but I also need a little bit of space sometimes, right? So circles are good because circles help us know who we need nice and close and tight for various reasons. But it also lets us know kind of where's that kind of step removed because it's healthy to have that at the same time. And what I think is important when we talk about circles is also the concept that, and as you start to write this down or to draw it out or reflect on it, you start kind of realizing how much do I feel like I belong? How connected am I? And I love this quote that says, the best a community does give one a deep sense of belonging and well being. And in that sense, community takes away loneliness. And I share this quote because sometimes when we're doing our circles, we realize our circles are getting a little bit lacking of people, or we wish there were more people. I come from a very small family, so I kind of wish that inner circle was bigger. But that's just not how the cards were dealt for me. And so I need to recognize that my sense of belonging doesn't just come from the quantity of the people that I have in my circles, but the relationships that I have with those that are in my circles. But the reality is, if we don't take time to kind of look at this and recognize, okay, at the center is a person. And in the case of some of our children with special needs, it's the person with a disability. And sometimes when we have disabilities or challenges, we find ourselves on those islands where there aren't too many people. And as we recognize that, what starts happening is people start to feel sad and lonely. They might feel like they're kind of forgotten about, or they might feel, well, I just don't feel loved because, like, look at all them. They have all these people, and I'm over here by myself. Sometimes, too, as we start looking at what's missing in our circles, we may start to kind of have that sense of loneliness or feeling alone. And so, circles give us a sense to recognize and kind of turn some of these negatives into positives. So, how do we build the sense of belonging, connection, and value and see that in one another? And also, when you think about this, it's important to think about what you do when you start not feeling like you belong or like there aren't those connections. And you see some of those popping up now on the screen. And why I think this is really important to elevate is because so often we sometimes see some of these things in others. We see them sometimes in our children and things like that. And when we look at these things that are happening, what ends up happening is these are all behaviors that are saying, I don't feel a sense of connection. I'm missing something. And so these are areas of opportunity. And so I raise this because while we think of circles and we think they're so positive, it's also important to recognize that sometimes circles, as we do this activity, can feel really heavy. And so that's why I built in this next piece as we look at kind of all of this heavy piece of let's also look at hope. And there's a lot of science around the concept of hope. And what I really encourage you to look at is this square block that has the arrow on it, relationships. Relationships are what circles of support is all about. And we get to decide the depth of those relationships, the quantity of those relationships, and how those relationships evolve and shift over time. And that's something that we don't ever really spend a whole lot of time teaching or even having conversations about of how the friend that moves away doesn't mean that they're no longer your friend. It's just, it's a little bit harder to build a sense of connection with one another. You're going to have to work a little harder at it. And that's where I really appreciate this concept of these four building blocks of hope, because it's not just about the relationships, but it's about the environment. What are we doing to set up a positive, healthy environment for those relationships to happen? What are the opportunities that we're giving one another and giving other people to have opportunities for engagement? To say, hey, look, I was able to do this today. I was able to open the Zoom. Hey, I was able to share this resource with a friend. And also, where's that opportunity for us to build our emotional growth? Just because we're adults does not mean our emotional growth stops happening. It's a continual process that we're all evolving through as humans. And so, how do we build that for our children? How do we build that for ourselves and for our families and all of those that make up our circles? And so, it's one of the reasons I love the concept of these four building blocks for hope, because hope is centered when all of these are given an opportunity to kind of flourish and grow. And so I encourage you to think about that and how they show up in your circles. And you might say, well, Kara, like, this is great, but like, why should I spend time doing this? Like, why does this make sense? This makes sense because every once in a while we are swamped and busy, and then we're like, I have no idea where to turn or who to go to. Taking opportunities to reflect on our circles gives us opportunities to start thinking about who are those people we can go to and recognizing that within more than just the traditional people we always go to. And you might say, okay, but Kara, like you talked about like how sometimes people shift and change, and tell me more about that. That's the how-to piece. And what's important to recognize as we're going through and working through our circles is that one of the major prime things to do as you're working on circles is to focus on some self-care. Meaning, how are you going to take care of your circle? Because how can you show up and interact with any of those people if your circle's burnt out, tired, exhausted, lacking coffee? It's tough, right? So I encourage you to think about what are you doing to fill up your own cup so that way you're ready to take on each day. The next piece, and this is a biggie, one I'm still working on learning, boundaries. Knowing where people's place are and what is their role. This is where it's important to kind of differentiate between who's my BFF versus who's my BFF work colleague, meaning there's a little bit of formality that is needed because we are in the workplace. Whereas how I talk to you if we're like hanging out at the movies might be very different. Recognizing this and seeing this is really, really key. It's not I can't be friends with everyone, but it means I can be friendly with everyone. But who actually gets to know some of the innermost details of my personal life and that of my family, that's where some of those boundaries are going to be up. And so I encourage you to take these opportunities to teach that with your children and to teach them how initially there's a little bit of stay back. And over time, as we get to know each other and as we build that sense of relationship, someone from the outer circle could slowly move in, but recognizing there's a reason that those circles slowly evolve and go out. And as we think about that, it's also an opportunity for us as we're knowing the boundaries of recognizing kind of not only the verbal and kind of the cues that we give, but also kind of what is the actual physical proximity that we have with those different people. Meaning, I love to hug, but there are certain people that I will not hug that are in my outermost circle. I don't go up to my doctor and give him a hug every time I go in for a physical. However, if I saw one of my work peeps who are on with you all tonight, chances are I'd be giving them a hug because we have that type of relationship with each other. But again, we have to have those boundaries because boundaries set clear expectations, and being clear is being kind. And last but not least, we have to think of how do we build those outer circles? Meaning, as much as I want to be the number one for both of my children and even my husband, I have to recognize that they need these outer circle people so that they can be whole people and maximize the people that they're supposed to be. And so I encourage you to think about how do we help fill that third circle of acquaintances and friends for our children? Because that is really where they build that sense of relationship. They learn the inner workings of people. And so I encourage you to think about slowly evolving that over time. I know for some of our kids, those are actual people that they see in real life. And then for some of our kids in that third circle, they're people that they meet in their online gaming and things. And again, there's a host of things to be concerned with that. But trust the process, stay involved, and keep the communication lines open. So that way you can ensure that not only your circles are strong, but your child's circles are strong too. And so, as you're thinking about this opportunity of building up your child's circle of who they can go to, you might say, well, Kara, how do I do that? Like, they're at school, I don't know who they're in class with, or Kara, like, where's those opportunities? I encourage you to look out to your community. Look to see what types of programmings are happening at your local library. Look at children who might be playing at the playground. Look at children who might be in your neighborhood. Find ways to try to find commons and also encourage children to explore something that is new to them. For example, look at these children. They're playing chess. Maybe not everybody here loves chess, but it's an opportunity to learn something new and about others who do maybe have a real passion and an interest in chess. And as we think about how do we give this opportunity for inclusion, talk about it with your children's school team. Talk about it with those in your child's life. Talk about it in your family and talk about the different various roles that all of these people can play and how it's important that we have multiple people to tap into because chances are we're all going to need to ask for help at some point or another. And as much as we want to be that person to be the helper, we might be busy that day. So we want to ensure our children know that they have these other circles to tap into for support, encouragement, and also for celebration as they continue to grow. I also encourage you to think about, as you're building up these opportunities for inclusion, to think about your child's interests. Where are there maybe clubs or activities that you could get started with your child to help build those sense of connections? And remember, inclusion doesn't mean it has to be a bazillion people. Inclusion means including one other person. Start small and grow from there. And think about the opportunities of as you grow, how their circles are going to continue to expand. And as you have these different opportunities where some of those connections might be short or long term, you could be building lifelong friendships that will last forever. And so I encourage you as you reflect back on your circles and this activity tonight, remember to take care of yourself because that's the only way we can be ready to tackle the other circles and be able to interact in a good, positive, healthy ways. Make sure there's healthy boundaries in place. Being clear is kind. And make sure we're thinking about how do we fill that third circle, those outer circles, because people are always going to be coming and going. But the most important thing is to recognize each person that crosses our path is depositing something memorable and special to change who we are as a person for both a positive and important way. So some final takeaways. I hope you have a better understanding of the importance of meaningful relationships. You can now use circles as a tool for yourself to kind of reflect, but also to kind of get ready to think of where your areas of opportunity, and also a really good opportunity for you to have some conversations about the rules and boundaries that all the people in yours and your child's life play. And so now I want to have us take a moment. I'd like you all to go ahead, grab a piece of paper or grab your phone if you have a drawing tool on it. And I want you to draw a circle. And in that circle, I want you to put your child's name. So for me, I'm going to focus on my older child. His name's Michael. So I'm going to put Michael in the center. Now I'm going to look at the next circle. Remember, that's the immediate family who's living with him. I'm going to put myself. I'm going to put my husband. I'm going to put my daughter. And got to include the puppy. So adding Finley in there. And so I encourage you to do the same. Who lives with your child? And if your child maybe goes between homes, you can include anyone that they have in both of those homes. So that way you can include all of those that love them and support them. And the next circle, you're going to start thinking about your extended family members. These could be aunts, uncles, grandparents, adopted aunts and uncles. Go ahead. take some time and reflect on who those people are. Give them a shout out. Now, your next circle, I want you to start thinking of who are the acquaintances. So for me in this acquaintances one, I'm going to put probably one of the school counselors because we have kind of a close relationship. And while they're a professional, they've gotten to know us a little bit more this school year. So I'm going to put them. I think in the acquaintances, I'm going to probably put my neighbor. I have some great neighbors. So I'm going to add a couple of them. I think I'm going to add some people from our church community because that's important to our family. And you know what? He's starting to get involved with work. I'm wondering, you know what? I think I'm going to hold them and put them in the professional because there really is kind of like a step remove. There's some good, healthy boundaries there. So let's keep those in place. So do you see how, as I'm sharing with you about what I'm doing for Michael, I'm hoping you're able to do the same for your child. And if you have more than one child, like I do, I encourage you to take time to build these circles for each of your children. Build them for yourself, even. And take stock not necessarily of the number of people you have in them all, but again, what role do these individuals play? How have they had the opportunity to show up when there's been a need? Are you feeling like you're always the one who has to be the one to show up? When was the last time you allowed somebody else to step in and try? Recognizing they may do it differently, but different is good, and different can be really important for our kids. So I encourage you, if you haven't finished your circles, take time to spend some time this week working some more on them. And I hope this activity gave you a chance to reflect on your own circles of support, recognize the importance of how we all are super connected to one another, and hopefully gives us an opportunity to talk about how can we build a sense of belonging in our communities for us, our children, and our families. I'm going to trust my team to answer any questions or comments you all might have. And as you know, we love our surveys. So tell me how I did, guys, because I'm not there with you and I wish I was, but I want to know, what did you think? Did you like it? Was it helpful? What would you change? What would you keep the same? Fill out the survey, let our funders know how we did, and I can't wait to see the results. Thank you, everyone, and we look forward to being able to connect with you more in the future. Take care.